Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 10. So Module 10 is the last module for the poetry units, and we are writing our next essay in this module. It is a comparison contrast essay, so we're doing a different style of essay than we did before, and you are going to be using poetry as your topic. So the only assignment in this module is to complete the essay. You will have a little bit of extra time. I usually try to open the essay modules up just a little early, so you have some extra time to work on them. Some students, just 1 week to write an essay is not quite enough time, so I'm trying to give you that time. Make sure that you leave yourself enough time to proofread and edit. Use the online writing lab if you need to. Remember, the online writing lab does not respond to student emails over the weekend, so it's a good idea to get your draft done pretty early, and then you can send it in and give them at least 2 business days to respond to you. So the module, pretty simple. I have some resources for you before you get started working on this essay. Make sure you take a look at the resources. There is a chapter in the textbook about writing about poetry, and then there's also more information about how to write a comparison contrast essay. So make sure that you check that out before you start writing this essay. And then we have I've linked in a website that you can take a look at, as well as a video, which is just kind of a standard how to compare poems. I also have 2 examples down here, which are from my own classes. Unfortunately, I don't have a comparison example using poems. They're both they're about different topics, these 2, but the outline and the essay both cover short stories rather than poems. It works the same way, but with poetry, you actually have a lot more things that you can use as your basis for comparison. And so I'll talk about that here in a minute, but these are just examples using short stories, whereas your assignment is to use a poem or 2 poems. I've got my works cited example in here again. This is the same one that you saw for the previous essay. Again, you can copy and paste this. You're just changing the author's name, the title, which would be the title of your poem, and then your page numbers. You do use a works cited page for this essay as well, listing the 2 poems. And then I also have the online writing lab link and the video again, to if you decide you want to use that. It's not required, but it's a really good idea. So this is the assignment. The comparison essay assignment will have you choose 2 poems from the poetry section of the book and compare them. It's probably a good idea to use 2 poems that we've actually read for the class, and ones that you feel like you know pretty well or understand pretty well, although any poem in the book is fine to use. Once you've chosen your 2 poems, you have to compare them based on a central idea. So that we call this the basis for comparison. And in this case, rather than comparing them about, say, like you would do point of view and imagery and figures of speech, those would be 3 different bases for comparison. So probably the first mistake that students will make is just picking too many things to compare them based on. A lot of students will pick like theme as a good basis for comparison. I think my example, even though it uses 2 stories, would also apply to 2 poems that use the same theme. And basically what that allows you to do is explore some of these things, but based on how they present the theme. So if you wanted to do 2 poems that are about death, for example, then that is your overall basis for comparison. And then each body paragraph would then cover a different way that the 2 poems look at death. So you might look at death as a metaphor, or the characterization of death, or how the word choice shows death, or the imagery, or something like that. So you would have different main points that are kind of tied back to that theme, but using that poetry terminology. So the essay itself is 2 to 4 pages. The first thing you need to do is tell us the author and title of both of the poems that are being compared. So that needs to be in the introduction paragraph. We should not have any questions once we get through the introduction as to what you're comparing. You'll need your overall basis for comparison, and then the rest of the essay follows in what we call point-by-point organization, which if you have taken Comp 1, you'll know that point-by-point organization means that each body paragraph covers a main idea, a main either similarity or difference between the poems, and not just a single poem. So rather than covering like point A for your first poem and then point A for the second poem and in the next paragraph, you're going to combine them together. Think about similarities and differences. It is a comparison contrast essay. No two poems will be exactly the same, but you're going to be focusing on things that are similar between them, but also differences. So you'll have a combination of the two ideas. And so sometimes students kind of get hung up on the comparison versus the contrast, and don't let that worry you too much, because the whole point of this is you're taking two poems that are different because they're written by different people, different time periods, different topics, and then you're trying to show us why they're similar. And so each main body paragraph will cover a similarity between them, and you just kind of put them side by side to show why they can be compared. Any lines that you use from the poems, well, you need to make sure that you put the line number in there as part of the documentation style. And then you need to make sure that you are doing a full 5-paragraph essay. So introduction, conclusion, and 3 comparative points as the body. Your works cited page will list the 2 poems. So you'll have 2 works cited entries. You will not use additional sources. This is not a research essay. This is entirely your opinion on the comparison. And so it involves some of that analysis that we practiced for the first essay, because it is your interpretation of the poems, their meaning, as well as how they compare to each other. So it's a little bit more challenging than the first essay, because instead of just one single thing that we're covering, you're covering 2. And so when we're putting them side by side to see how they're similar. There is a rubric down here that you can kind of look at as well to help you out with how it's going to be graded. Otherwise, the assignment itself is pretty basic, and there's lots of information. There's examples in the textbook as well. And you can always send me an email if you are struggling or if you are not sure if your 2 poems can be compared. So that's the module. If you have questions, send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week.